Good evening.
Hi,
I'm Troy.
I'm Keith.
That's Keith.
We're going to talk about an article where a 5-year-old girl got in trouble for talking about, not making this up, talking about a pink toy bubble gun. Uh, Talking about shooting a friend and shooting herself with these pink toy bubble gun. Uh, and I'm going to say it like that every time. Uh, the quote was, "I'm going to shoot you, and I will shoot myself." Apparently, someone in the school learned this conversation. So the girl was interrogated for about 30 minutes. A 5-year-old was interrogated for about 30 minutes, and then the student was then labeled a terrorist threat. Now, a lot of schools around the country and in this area where we're at have had a zero tolerance policy for a long time. And given that, and also the recent gun debate, gun rights, whatever you want to call it, um, I think it's getting out of control. What do you think, Troy?
I think it's getting severely out of control. I mean, on the surface of it, you'd think this would be a good thing. Certainly, in light of events like Columbine, Virginia Tech, these school on campus shootings where lives are senselessly lost. I mean, obviously, there has to be some safeguards in place to ensure that when our kids are at school, that they're no more likely to be, dispatched to the hereafter than at home, which might even be an issue for another time. What we have is a type of nanny state pants wetting that has heretofore been unexperienced anywhere in the allegedly free world. I'm talking about, I mean, if a student comes to school and they talk about murder suicide, I mean, that might be a child that is unbalanced and unstable, and we certainly want to get that child into the appropriate mental health um, infrastructure available to us. I want to point out this was in Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania, and one of our original settlements here in the freedom-loving United States of America. And this child, yes, at the age of 5, referencing, and the bubble dispenser, the smallest one that you can go to Circle K or 7-Eleven and get one. Valero for our viewers west of the Rockies, and you get the smallest cartridge or bottle, and it does kind of go up into the gun, clip fashion, and it's got a lot of LED lights on it. It's clearly something for children to have fun with, and you squeeze these bubbles out that I can only imagine the velocity that these bubbles are being, discharged from,
Propelled, hurled.
propelled, hurled at a child, and yes, and then when the projectile does actually connect with the victim, they get a little bit of watery goo, and then you can go, "Why are you crying?" Or "Mr. McCullough wet himself." Um, and zero tolerance policies of all kind. I think it was mid '90s in a high school, um, when two girls, one girl was had reached that time of the month in which you want to avoid girls at all costs, and so she says to her friend, she was experiencing symptomology associated with that particular feminine function, and the girl gave her friend a Midol pill, and was subsequently expelled for distribution of a controlled substance, a Midol. Now, me personally, when I've had a long, stressful day, I like nothing more than either a tall, cool Budweiser or a Midol. Nothing like Midol to get me strung out and out there committing senseless crimes to feed my habit. Um, Anything you care to add to that debate there, kid? Ha!
Yeah, that reminds me, and I believe this was a local story in the 90s again, right after, not too long after the whole zero tolerance policy was implemented. Was it after Columbine, the zero tolerance, or was it before that? I can't remember
No,
specifically.
Columbine was 2000, so this would have been probably closer to the Russ Kunkel shooting. There were a few school shootings before Columbine, believe
There,
it or not.
yeah, there was a catalyst that basically set off the whole zero tolerance thing, and I can't remember what the specific event was, but I know that locally, I heard of a story of a kid that drove. He was a high school student, and he'd been driving back and forth to school. And one weekend, he and his dad had gone on a fishing trip, and he had left the knife, used for cutting line and cleaning fish, in his vehicle. And again, somehow or another, this came to light, and he was, I think, another student or something said, "Yeah, this guy's got a knife in his car," and so he was summarily suspended and reviewed and all that. And at one point, they were talking. I don't remember the outcome, but I know they were talking about what's the word, expelling the guy for that year. And there was another story, and I think this was more of a national story of again a high school student that had either had moved himself or had helped a friend move, and in the move were some utensils, and one of those utensils had fallen out. It was a butter knife, had fallen under the seat. Well, the student found it, and again, somehow or another, it came to light that the student had a butter knife in his vehicle, and it was almost the same scenario, that he was expelled, suspended, and they were talking, or he was suspended, and they weren't talking, expulsion. So, uh, zero tolerance.
I can understand. I'm familiar with that story. There had actually been a recent rash of school butterings. Kids were coming to school with the tubs of parquet, with the tubs of bagel schmear, and they were spreading people into a coma with bagel schmear. So, of course, at some point, you do have to draw the line. I mean, butter knife today is a steak knife, tomorrow is a Leatherman tool, and then from there,
It's a gate.
bedlam.
It's a gateway utensil.
It's a gateway utensil. This is, and our founding fathers never envisioned Kentucky Fried Chicken's spork. So this is why we live in a. This is why we have a living constitution, so that we can continue to ban things because a few idiots misuse them.
Yeah. All jokes aside, I mean, this can only go if America in general continues along this path. Then in the next 50 or 100 years, we're all going to be almost indentured servants, not only to the government, but to one another. Uh,
Well, we're going to be so overregulated with guidelines and bylaws that we're going to have to consult some bloody manual to make a bloody egg McMuffin.
right. It's going to be a scenario of it's going to be an extreme police state, is what it's going to be. People are going to be walking on eggshells for everything. And that's it. It seems that that's what people want. And because I mean, none of this stuff gets implemented without a vote, save for your executive orders, which is illegal and a topic for another video. But anyhow,
Make notes of these topics for other videos, because we're getting so far ahead of ourselves. Our crack research team is in the bathroom as we speak.
but I think that's how far. I mean, that's the big question. Really, is how far should zero tolerance be allowed to go? At what point are you just venturing? Zero. Yeah, at what point are you venturing into the realm of complete absurdity?
Oh, I think we already have in many cases. There was a young girl who was her mother, and from the story I read, I believe the mother actually did pull through. She's a cancer survivor. At the time, her mother was receiving, I believe, chemotherapy because she was a breast cancer patient, and the young lady tried to access resources, no, legitimate medical resources on breast cancer. And you remember the term for this. I don't know if the term is. I'm sure you do ITs. Net nanny still available?
Oh,
Is
no.
there such? I'm sure it's been superseded by other parental blocks and V chips. But at the time, the young lady was unable to access information pertaining to breast cancer because the word breast had been flagged in order to prevent children from accessing pornography. So as a result, this teenage girl was unable to find resources that might have in some way either actually benefited her mother's recovery or at least given her some sense of having a better grasp of the situation concerning stats and other data of that nature that she was unable to access because again, uh, and as my colleague here so frequently refers to is was it Reverend Lovejoy's wife, Mrs. Lovejoy? The what about the children? Now, I don't get me wrong. I don't want children exposed wantonly to pornography or to weapons, but if I mean kids grew up in all parts of the world for millions of years, fraught with all of the same dangers that the adults were, and it only made them stronger adults. And yet here we're softening children's formative years. We're trying to shelter them from every conceivable evil that might have the potential to one day become a reality. And by the time they're 18 and out of the house, or at least 18 and in college, they're just wholly unprepared for the realities of life because we've kept them in this cocoon of zero tolerance to the point where, by the time a fight breaks out in a bar, the kid's not going to be prepared to defend himself. All they're going to know is 911 and run. The term for the adrenaline rush is fight or flight. And in many cases and in many different circumstances, people are not prepared to fight legitimately because we've held them off during their formative years, and then there's nothing there. We turn loose on society a bunch of hush puppies and sweet potatoes that are incapable or unwilling to when it's called for to take up arms and defend themselves or even put their bloody dukes up because we have to protect the children from violence. Mass murderers and pedophiles are not protecting your children from anything. Why the hell are you?
I think, I said if I had high school age children and said some of the things to them that my old man said to me, and somebody got wind of it, nowadays they'd hang you on the 11 o'clock news.
Hi, DSS. We're from the government. We're here to help you.
Exactly. We things like my old man said. If you get into a fight, do it on the football field. That way you're less likely to get caught. If I said that to a kid, now I'd be called a child abuser and a deadbeat dad and some,
You would be fostering an atmosphere of violence.
And don't get me wrong, my dad never encouraged me to fight. He said, it always takes the bigger man to walk away. But you'll notice the way he worded it. He said, if you have to fight. The implication there to me being the smarter thing to do is to walk away. But that's not what people would hear. And what he was talking about is, I say it all the time, when it comes to children, people lose their grip on reality. I mean, even the slightest infraction, people are somebody beats their child in public or spanks them, and you've got your bedwetting liberals that are out there that are like, ban them, they touch their children, ban them. It's ridiculous. How do you discipline your kids nowadays? I'm not saying you got to beat the hell out of them. You don't. Psychological torture is quite effective. Take it from a pro. But
grounding lasts a week. How long does the spanking last? 5 seconds. It's over. You put a kid on restriction. You take their cards. You limit their access to their social life. You will doom that child. They will be a pariah among their friends because they haven't liked anything on Facebook for the past 2 days.
Yeah.
Just something to think about.
So, zero tolerance.
I have zero tolerance for zero tolerance.
Not a good thing. Not now, not in the future, not in the past. You're just going to have people, it's just going to get worse, and you're just going to have people walking around on eggshells. It's not a pleasant environment to be in. And when somebody makes a mistake, and people do make mistakes, what do? Do you examine it rationally, or do you flip out? Do you
Good night.